Aaron.
Hey, what's up?
Coach Aaron.
Coach Aaron.
Where are you from?
I'm from London, England. And yeah, my family is from Ghana and Jamaica. Ghana is my dad's side, Jamaica is my mum's side.
Right.
I grew up in England all my life. I've been to Ghana once, and I haven't been to Jamaica because I don't have any family there. So yeah, it's kind of sad because I heard Jamaica's like quite dangerous to go there. You know, when you go there, you've got to stay in the hotel, and I don't want to be a tourist in my own country, so I'm just like, I'll probably go with some gangsters soon, but I'm just playing.
What was whereabouts in London?
Southeast London, so I grew up in Charlton, by the O2 Arena. Yeah.
Right. And what was that like?
Um,
Growing up there.
that was cool because I went to a private school, so I was quite privileged that my parents would like spend their last money to send me and my brother to private school because they wanted us to do well in life and stuff. Didn't turn out well. No, it turned out okay, but yeah, it was nice. Like I was, you know, from an early age, I was the token black kid in the school, like with a few other black kids, but there's a handful of us amongst like hundreds of white kids. And I just learned from an early age that I'm different, you know, like I just got to own that about me. And it's interesting growing up in that environment. And that happened as well, again, when I went to big school. I was also a minority there. And yeah, had my first racism event happened when I was at big school, when I was 11. That was wild. That was very traumatic, actually.
What happened?
So we're walking to the bus stop, and I'm with my friends, all white friends, and we're standing at the bus stop. And this bus stop's like literally right on the edge of the road. And there's these cars driving past, and my friend's kicking stones into the road. And I'm not doing anything, I'm just standing there, right? So he's kicking stones into the road, and then one of the stones like flicked up off the road and then hit the guy's windshield as he's driving. And then he went around, drove around, there was a roundabout, and he turned around, parked on the opposite side of the road, and then he got out of the car, stood in the middle of the road, and then pointed his finger at me, and he was like, "You fucking black bastard," and started pointing at me. And I was just standing there and looking at my friend, and I was like, I didn't know what to do. Like, he was really angry, and he was pointing at me in the road. And I was like, fuck, this guy's a grown-ass man. I'm like 11 years old with all my friends, and then nothing happened. Like, the guy got in his car, drove off, and I was just so stunned and shocked, and I was like, fuck, what the fuck just happened? So I went on the bus, and I didn't talk to my friend for the entire journey home, and that was like an hour and a half ride. I didn't talk to him at all, not one word. He didn't talk to me either. And then after that, I never spoke to him again. And went home to my mum, and then she was on nights because she was a nurse. And so I woke her up, and then I told her what happened, and I just started crying. I was like, that was the first time I experienced racism. I was like, fuck, why didn't they like me? Like, what did I do? I didn't even do anything. And yeah, that was traumatic. And she was just like, it's okay. Like, you have to do better in school because, you know, this is what happens in the world. And we had this conversation about race. That was my first introduction to, oh, you're a black man in England, you need to do your studies. You need to get ahead because you can be going for the same job, like black guy and a white guy, the same job, and you won't get it because, like, unless you have something that he doesn't have. That's just the world we live in, and that's how I was raised. And that actually happened. That what I just described actually happened. Like, I went for a job, and the guy who went for the same job as me got the job without an interview. I go in there, I'm like, hey, can I get a job? My friend just came in yesterday. Oh no, you need to come in for an interview. But he just came for a job. He didn't have to have an interview, and I need to be interviewed. I was like, this is the way the world works. So I had an interview, and it turns out that was like one of the best jobs I ever had. But that was a privileged white family in the area that I grew up in, and they don't have any black friends. They don't converse with black people. So I get it. If I put myself in their shoes, I can completely understand. I would have probably done the same thing if I was them. So it is what it is,
Yeah. So did you feel like a lot of pressure then, growing up?
No. Pressure to perform in terms of being good at my studies, right? So that was always like in my family, like the African side of my family, like my my grandfather, who's now passed, he was always like, you need to do your studies. Do your studies. Do your studies. And I was like, yes, Grandpa, yes. But, you know, I was never academic. I would try my best, but it just wasn't my thing. I just didn't like it at all. And but there was constant pressure from my parents to, you know, excel at my studies and stuff. I was just an average student. I wasn't like an A grade student. I had to work really hard to be an average student, actually.
And so you said that academics wasn't your thing, so what was your thing?
Sports and music. Yeah, it's actually interesting you asked that, because I was thinking about this the other day, looking at some of my notes that I've taken over the years. And when I was a kid, I just gravitated to physical activity. And so I was playing football. I was the best in my school, at primary school. And then I was also doing music as well. And I had a really empowering music teacher called Mr. Smith, and he was empowering me to like play the drums. And I was doing musicals. I was the lead act in a musical called Pied Piper. I was playing the mayor, so it was really cool. And I was doing all that stuff, and I loved it, you know. So I was quite artsy growing up. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so then, did you go to university then?
Yeah, I went to university. I went to study law and business, but I had a first choice of going to Surrey University, and I didn't get in. They required 3 Bs at A level, and I got 2 Ds and 1 U. So I didn't get that one. But yeah, I went to Coventry University, and it was funny because when we found out where we were going, it was all my friends in one room, and then I was just looking on the computer, and I was like, oh fuck, I got into Coventry. Like, that's when my late grandmother, she used to live there, so that was cool because I could get to see her often, which was great. But when we found out that, my friends also got into Coventry as well, so we were like, oh fuck, we thought we were gonna like not see each other for 3 years, but then they all got into the same university that I got into, so we just continued our friendship throughout university. That was really fucking awesome. That was cool.
Nice. And so law and business for 3 years.
Yeah, the thinking behind that was I wanted to be a sports agent. So, because I told you I was like into football and stuff, but I didn't want to be a footballer. Well, I kind of did, but I kind of gave that up when I was 18. So I was like, I'm not going to be a footballer. I'm not good enough, and like I don't want to put all my energy into that either. So I just made a conscious choice not to go for that career. And I thought, where else could I excel? I was like, oh, I still love the game, so I want to be involved in it. So why not just represent the players off the pitch? You know, I'm like good at people. I'm a good people person. Like, I like all that stuff, and so that's what I was thinking. And I went to actually Rio Ferdinand's a player for Man United. His agent came to our university to give a talk, and I started connecting with him. And then he invited me to his office in Canary Wharf in London. And I was like super excited. I was like, fuck, this is my chance. You know, I'm going to be a sports agent. I'm going to like, he's going to be my mentor. And they were talking about me going to Nigeria. It was like me on one side of the table and then 6 of the executives on the other side. And they had a camera right there. And that was the first time I've been on camera, so I was like really nervous. And they were quizzing me on all these things. But my exams were coming up for my university. And they were like, oh, we're going to go to Nigeria next week. And we'll message you. And I was like, wow, fuck, I might be going to Nigeria. Like, I'm not fucking studying if I'm going to go to Nigeria with these guys. But then, long story short, they came back to me and said, hey, we're going to give you a job on the street handing out leaflets and work your way up. I was like, no, I'm like, I don't want to sound like I'm too big for my boots, but I ain't doing that shit. Like, I don't have time for that, you know? And so from there, I met Alan Shearer's sports agent as well, and he took me to one of these meetings. I met all the other footballers' agents and stuff, and I was just like, I just had the conversation with them, and they were like, oh, it's like a long game, you know? They were like, you need law. So I was like, okay, I'm going to study law, keep studying. But then I dropped out of university after the second year because I took 8 exams and I failed 7 of them. But the thing is, I actually really tried hard for these 8 exams. Like, I studied so much and I still failed. So I was like, maybe the universe was telling me something. And at that time, a couple months later, I went to an event. My dad took me to an internet marketing conference in London. And that was where my eyes were opened. Because before that, I was doing work experience with my dad's friend at a law firm. And I was just thinking to myself, wow, I'm going to have to do this every single day for the rest of my life. Get on the train, go into London and work at a job that I hate and sleep after lunch and just be bored and then come back. And I was like, fuck, I don't want to do that. So this event opened my eyes to another world. Like, wow, this guy's on stage talking about how he's traveling the world with his family and he's making money and he's wearing a t-shirt. I'm like, I want that, I want that life. And then that was it. From that point, I was just obsessed, and I had a relationship at the time, and she actually broke up with me ultimately because I was just so obsessed with figuring this out that I just gave her less and less attention. And that was like, it felt like my world had ended at that point. It was crushing, soul crushing for me, because I really loved her at the time.
So what did you do after you dropped out of uni for 2 years then?
Yeah, so I went on welfare. I remember moved back into my parents, and my dad was trying to make some more money. So what he would do is I don't know how he figured this out, but basically there's this program in Europe, like Spain, Italy, Romania, all these countries, and the students from those schools come to England, and then what happens is they need a place to stay. So there's this company that's like a middleman, and they find like people like my father, like English people who can put them up. So you get paid per student per night. So he was getting paid, I think it was £13 per student per night. So he basically crammed 3 of them into my fucking bedroom every night, and then I had to sleep downstairs. Well, first of all, I had to move him in my brother's room, and then ultimately after that, he started getting more students, and I had to live downstairs in a sofa bed. So here's me, come from university, come back home, and now I'm sleeping on the fucking sofa bed. And I got no job, and I had to go and sign on for welfare because I didn't want to get a job, right? Like I could have got a job, but I knew that if I got a job, I wouldn't be hungry to pursue my career in online marketing. And at the time, I was listening to Tony Robbins a lot, and he was sharing a story about Sylvester Stallone and how he started Rocky and stuff, and how he didn't want to get a job, even though he couldn't afford to eat, because he wanted his script to be accepted by the movie theaters and stuff, and he wanted to be in the movie. And so I heard this story literally at the time when I was on welfare, and I was like, yeah, you know what, like my future is going to be great. I'm going to go on welfare for now because I want to keep that drive, I don't want to lose that drive and be like all my friends getting corporate jobs and stuff, and that would just be the comfort. I don't want that. So that's what I did, and I started going to marketing events. Like my little money that I was getting was enough for me to travel to these marketing events. And then I met one of my friends, and then he invited me to America, and then I met all these people that I saw online, and that was it. That was the moment where I was like, this is fucking gonna work. Like I met this guy that I just watched on YouTube, and now I'm shaking the guy's hand, and I was like, this actually works. Like this is proof that works. And yeah, after that I just started believing more. And then I went to more conferences, and then I went to one in England again a few months after that, and I met my mentor, and he invited me to Thailand. And that's how I ended up in Thailand in 2010. 6 months later, we did a launch, made the most money I've ever made in my life, and then after that, things just started snowballing from there, and then I stayed in Asia ever since.
Wow, yeah. And this was how long ago?
This is 12 years ago now.
12 years ago.
Fuck, I sound so old.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Thailand was the first, other than America, Thailand was the first international trip?
No, so I traveled before with my parents and stuff, ski trips to Austria and Spain and, other countries like that. Turkey, went to Ghana. Yeah. I traveled around, but I hadn't been to Asia. I didn't even know where Thailand was on the map. I had to look on the map. I didn't know anything about Asia. Actually, I didn't know anything. I thought that, I thought that there wasn't any black people in Asia because I'd seen Rush Hour, and I was like, oh yeah, there's no black people in Asia. I see Rush Hour, there's no black people there. And so when I went to Asia, I remember I landed in Singapore first, and I just looked around, I was like, holy fuck, Rush Hour was right. There's no black people in Asia. There's literally no black people in Singapore. There's 10 black people in Singapore. But then when I went to Thailand, I saw a bit more. But yeah, I was just the token black guy again, which, again, going back to my childhood, that was comfortable for me. That was my comfort zone. So it's nice.
And how long did you live in Thailand for?
7 years, I think. Yeah, 7 years. And then I came to Bali. Yeah, I came to Bali in 2018 for the first time.
Wow. So how were you able to sustain yourself? I know that you said that you started the Lunch Chat business in 6 months, but before that, like, how were you able to move to Thailand and like sustain yourself there for a bit?
Oh yeah, so yeah, this is another thing, right? So my mentor is like, if he's watching this, I don't know if he's probably not going to watch this, but anyway, I'll just say anyway, like he's not like most people. Like, so how it happened was I was at the event and the guy who actually ran the event got the opportunity first to go to Thailand, but he's got a wife and kids, he's got a mortgage, and he actually approached me and he's like, hey, Greg wants you to, he needs someone to work with in Thailand, someone who can like be his assistant basically. And I was like, he's like, why don't you go? I was like, oh, me? He's like, yeah, you don't have any commitments here. It's like, oh yeah, you're right. So I approached Greg and then he's like, yeah, okay, like let's set up a Skype call. The same day in that evening, I had a 30-minute chat with him. He sends me $5,000 US, and then he's like, buy yourself a new laptop, buy me some whiskey, buy me an iPhone, buy your flight ticket, and I'll see you in Thailand. I was like, holy shit, this is actually happening. And he said on the phone, he said, I don't know what's going to happen out of this, but something's telling me to fly you out to Thailand. I was like, oh, that's cool. So I went to Thailand, and then he just basically paid for my expenses. So my rent, my food, and then a bit of travel expenses. It wasn't much because I was just living in the village in northern Thailand, you know. So the expenses were minimal. It was like, I don't know, $300 a month, $500 a month. So for him, it was like nothing because he was making so much money at the time. Still is, but at the time that was like nothing to him, you know. So, and I was adding so much value to him. I was doing a lot for him. And one day I just thought, I want to do something, you know. I'm around him so much that I want to do something for myself. He never said, hey, do something. He just left it to me. I was like, I want to do something with you. Like, I want to work in some capacity and step up. And then he taught me about how to market and how to hire people, all the people skills you need for business, all that stuff. Like, that's what I learned from him. Yeah.
And so was it really that simple, or was there any resistance from you? Like, it sounds like you just kind of met this guy recently. Yeah,
I knew who he was before. So I was trying to go to the barbershop with my dad, and I was at the house, and he was watching this webinar, and I was like, fuck. We were late for the barbershop, and I was like, fuck, Dad, why are you watching this again? He's going to sell you something. Like, and then I went into his room, and I started looking at what he was teaching. I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. And then the next day I saw some guy, mutual friend on my Facebook, and he's like, oh, that guy on the webinar is going to be in London. I was like, oh. So I went to the event, and that's how I met him initially. Because no one knew who he was. But I knew who he was because I saw him on a webinar. So when I went to the event, I saw him in the hallway, and I just introduced myself. And this was before anyone knew who he was. So that was his first time in London. So he remembered me from there, and then I think that helped the relationship. So after 3 days, that opportunity came to go to Thailand. I was the one, hey, like, I want to take you up on that offer if you're gonna let me do it, you know, let me go to Thailand. And he was like, yeah, let's hop on the call. And so that's how I built that relationship. And yeah, that was 12 years ago. Fuck, damn.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how did you get into health coaching then?
Ooh, yeah. So health coaching is. That was something that I thought about. He had put that idea in my head in 2014, and I rejected it. I was like, I don't want to sell supplements. I don't want to, you know, do anything with health because, like, first of all, I'm not in like great shape. At the time I wasn't, and I'm not like consistently working out, which I wasn't. And I don't want to do any of that stuff. Like, I don't want to sell supplements. He was like, you should sell supplements. I'm like, no, I don't want to put stuff in people's bodies. Like, I might be liable for that. All these limiting beliefs, right? But then, so my friend, one of my other friends, came to hang out with me for a month, and he was like super jacked, super ripped, older than me, and he had like everything in his life figured out, like all the areas of his life, like health, wealth, relationships, like all good. And I was just like, wow, this guy is like a role model for me. He's like my older brother, like from another mother, right? And he dragged me to the gym. He was like, dude, come to the gym. I was like, fuck, I don't want to go to the gym. I think it was like $30 for a day pass. And, you know, you can work outside in Asia. Like, you can work out outside in the park for free. I was like, why am I going to pay $30 to work out? He's like, dude, just pay the money. And in hindsight, that was the best $30 I spent because that started a domino of events where I started working out regularly with him. and he basically relit my fire for exercise because I wasn't really doing anything consistently, and just changing up my routine and changing how I eat as well, and just living that healthy lifestyle that I wasn't living. And my whole life started changing after that, and I started posting my results. I started getting leaner, started posting my results, and all my internet marketing friends were like, wow, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, you're eating pizza and you're still getting shredded, like, what's going on? And I was just like, yeah, man, it's like my system. And I started refining my system that I kind of learned from him, but then I like this Bruce Lee quotes, like, absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is uniquely your own. So I did that with this, and I refined it into like 3 days a week, and I started enrolling people in my program, launched that, and then got a lot of success stories from that. And the thinking behind going into the health space was, before all this happened, like, as I was getting in shape, I was thinking, like, 5-10 years in the future, I'm like, this is going to be more important to me, what I'm doing now, in 5 and 10, 20 years time. Like, I'm going to place more importance on my health. And if I'm going to do that, then everyone else is going to do that. And health, like, as long as there's humans on the planet, everyone's going to have a problem with their health. So I was like, this is a long-term play as well. So this is something that I enjoy doing, and I can enjoy it more and then keep doing it. So that was the thinking behind going into the health space. Yeah.
Sounds like you had a lot of success as a health and fitness coach. I'm curious to know, what are some of the challenges you faced over the years as a coach?
Well, when I went into the health space, my income basically went down to very little because I just completely, like, abandoned, jumped ship, because I put all my energy into it. Because I was like, I need to start this brand. I can't have any energy going to something else, which I don't regret, actually. Like, I don't regret it, because that was what was required at the time, you know? Like, one of my ex-girlfriends, she said, never regret anything, because at the time you thought it was a good idea, which I like that as well. So yeah, I don't regret it. But it was a big challenge at the start, because I was basically just using my savings to just fund it, you know, like, because there wasn't new income coming in until I started the thing. So I was using my savings to fund it, fund the ads and stuff. But yeah, the challenges were, like, the business side of things, because up until that point, I hadn't really done any, like, paid ads. Like, I was just doing joint ventures, like affiliate marketing stuff. Like, hey, like, Sheree, promote my product. We'll promote my product, you know, like that kind of stuff. It wasn't like, I wasn't doing any real marketing, you know. So I didn't have that skill set, which I didn't know I didn't have that skill set. So when I started running ads, I was like, all right, I need to figure out, like, how much each customer's costing me, how much we're making, and, like, what's the funnel looking like, and all that stuff. And which I know all the funnel stuff, but then I was like, oh, I need to increase the value of each customer. How do I do that? I could add more products, or I could just add some a coaching program on the back. So they come in for like $67. I need to add a coaching program on the back. And so that's what I did in 2018, I believe. Yeah, I joined one of the guys I met in 2010. I just hit him up. I was like, hey, I want to go into your coaching program. I knew this guy from a few years ago, and he was a cool dude. And I was like, hey, I want to join your coaching. I want to learn how this whole thing works so I can make a coaching program. And I paid that guy a lot of money over the years to learn, like, how to be a coach, basically, and how to enroll people over the phone. That was a big one. Like, I was so scared of the phone. Like, I was terrified. Remember the first phone call I had with a prospect, and the phone was dialing, and I was just thinking, every dial I was just like, I hope he doesn't fucking pick up. I hope he doesn't answer. I hope he doesn't answer. Which is, like, crazy to think about, but that's how much I was scared of the phone. Like, I was just terrified of it. And I've messed up so many calls, like, so many, like, people that are really in pain, and I could have helped them, but because I let that inner voice get in my head, I didn't serve them to the best of my abilities. But now, like, it's a constant effort to get over that, you know, because I'm good at it now, but it's just, if I let that voice get in my head, then it just fucks me up, you know.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because, you know, everyone knows you as this outgoing, confident guy. So how did you, like, were you always this confident, or is that something that you grew into? You
know, it's funny that you say that, because Felix is our acting coach, right? And he said to me, actually, he said, you need to know who you are and how you're perceived. And acting helps you understand how you're perceived. And I was like, wow, that's interesting, because at that time, I don't think I was really fully aware of how I'm perceived. Even though I always try to, protect my reputation. I guess that's not the right word, but I'm always trying to control that in a way of like my perception. But yeah, I wasn't always confident, especially with the phone. Like I've had a lot of coaching. Like I don't show the behind the scenes stuff, but I don't believe that anyone's an overnight success. Like I spend a lot of time like studying and reading, and mostly just studying videos and stuff like that. But yeah, I also am very aware of the being authentic, like because I was just listening to one of my friend's voice notes, and he was like, being authentic is sharing how you feel and not hiding how you feel. And that's kind of hard for me because the family I come from, no one shares how they feel. So it's like I have to learn that, and I've been learning it since I've been coming to Bali. And I think that's helping me a lot with just my life in general, and my friendships that I have, and just connecting with people in a different way. So yeah, I maybe portray that I'm always confident, but I'm always aware of that, because like always being confident is not how you live life. Like sometimes you're down, sometimes you're sad and stuff like that. So I always try to be positive, but I want people to know that I'm not perfect either. I have my ups and downs, and negative stories in my head. Like with the podcast, like I had that idea 9 years ago, and I only started it 9 years later. But I had that idea 9 years ago, so I had these limiting stories that stopped me from doing it. Same thing with YouTube. Like I had a story of no one's watching, no one cares, so why do I care? If no one else cares, if I got 10 views on this video and I spent 10 minutes or 20 minutes making it and all this research put into it and it gets 10 views, why should I care, And so these negative stories have been playing in my mind for a long time, and it's only when I started really examining them and then realizing that actually it's not true, I'm just making it up. I'm literally making that up. It's not true. And understanding why I'm doing what I'm doing, that helps me to just detach from the outcome, because that was the whole thing for me. It was like I was attached to the outcomes. Like, this is not going to get 1,000 views, I'm not doing it. Like, and then of course that's not how you build anything, right? So detaching from the outcome and just focusing on the work. That's why I like Russell Simmons. I was reading his books before, and then I met him in Bali, and I mentioned to him one of the things he said in his videos. He said, we have control over the work alone, but never its fruit. And I was like, wow, that's really true, because you don't have control over the outcome of, I don't have control over the outcome of this video. All I can control is what I'm doing right now. And I like that philosophy on life. So I'm just trying to implement that more and more and detach from the outcome.
You have recently been doing some stand-up comedy.
Yes.
What made you want to get into doing that?
My life was just getting way too serious. And I was just like, man, like I just feel... And that was one of my goals as well, because I saw my friend and he had gotten more funny in a way. Like, it's weird to say that, but like I'd known him for years, and I was like, holy shit, he's actually quite funny now. What's he been doing? He wouldn't tell me, but I know that he was studying something, and he's very competitive. So like, anyways, but when I heard about the comedy here in Bali, I was like, oh, that's interesting, and I went to a few shows, and then my friend actually he said those guys on stage are telling jokes in their second language, and I was like, fuck yeah, you're right. Like they're telling jokes in their second language, and I'm sitting there, native English speaker. No, I won't do that. I'm not going to do that. And I was like I actually wanted to be funny. Like I want to try it. And so yeah, I just thought, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And then I started writing, and it was actually, I'd say out of all the things I've tried, like that was probably the easiest thing to do for me. To write a set. Like my set was 12 minutes, so it was quite long, and I actually had too much material for the first set. And I have a story about that as well, actually, because all the comedians are like, dude, why don't you do more? Like I've done it for 5 times now. I did a set for the gym as well, which was good. That first month I did comedy, I wrote 3 sets. I performed 3 different times, and that, like most comedians, they don't do that. Like they just write one set and they keep refining that one set. And I have a story about that, which I actually got to go into, is why I'm not doing comedy, because it takes a long time. It takes me like a good week to write 5 minutes, which that's like every day pretty much focusing on iterating my jokes for a whole week and then recording it. So, but yes, comedy is good because it's like a healthy expression of what I want to say in a funny way, So it's a nice way to express yourself, I guess. Because I don't really express myself that much because, you know, I do the podcast, but that's listening to people. It's not really talking. But actually talking is, I think, very therapeutic. Just saying what you want to say.
And what inspires you?
People living out what they want to do, like people just doing what they want to do. You know, that lights me up. I like it when people are just doing the stuff that lights them up, you know, and gives them meaning for life. Because ultimately, nothing has my personal opinion, nothing has meaning in life except the meaning we give it, right? So, you know, whatever you think is meaningful is what you should be doing, right? And for me, like, it's just what inspires me is seeing people who inspire me, you know, like, and seeing what I can create, like the creation process in and of itself. Like, to think I had an idea and then I execute on it and now this happened. Wow, that's amazing. Like, that whole process of creation is inspiring, and just, yeah, understanding that I can believe in myself, and the more I believe in myself, the more I can create whatever I want. And that's pretty much what inspires me, you know. Seeing everyone like lead with the intention of love behind everything they do. So that's another thing. It's like, I think about this a lot. Like, if people just led with more love, there would be less issues in the world, you know. And it shows up in coaching that I do as well. Like, sometimes, like, someone hates someone or they don't like what someone did. I'm like, in that moment, what was your intention? Like, was it coming from a place of love? And they're like, no, actually, no, you're right. Yeah, fuck, it wasn't. It's like, man, like, it's hard because when we're emotionally charged, like, we don't feel like, you know, coming from that loving place, but it's required, I think. And that inspires me, like, just having more love in the world. It sounds really weird, but that inspires me.
Yeah. So you've been away from the UK for like 12 years now.
Yeah.
And you are a coach, you're doing your own thing. Have you ever had a moment where you just want to pack up your bags, go back to England, get a normal job, and live a normal life? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Like, that's not even it's not even a thought. Like, I've thought about selling for other people, but that's as far as that goes, you know. Like, it's like, I know some guys who are like crushing it online, and I thought about selling for them, but that was as far as it goes. Like, I just drew the line when I dropped out of university and I went on welfare. That was it. I made a decision with myself, and I was like, I'm never gonna, apart from my apprenticeship with my mentor, like, I'm never gonna work for anyone again. And that's just me being stubborn, and I think that's a required trait to be an entrepreneur. You know, you have to be stubborn, and I'm very fucking stubborn, and I'm sometimes maybe too stubborn, but, you know, it does work in your favor, especially with this. You know, like, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm just not. It's not, and it's not like if it happens, then it's okay, but I'm not going to let it happen. Yeah.
What does success mean to you?
Success means doing what you want to do with the people you want to do it with for as long as you want, and that's it. Like, that's success. Like, success. I read a lot of books, as you know. So Earl Nightingale wrote The Strangest Secret in the World, right? I've listened to it so many times, and he said the strangest secret in the world. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal, right? So that is literally, if you're, my friend, for example, he wanted to be a teacher when he was in university. Now he's a teacher. So he is successful. Like, in the marketing space, everyone's like, oh, when you get successful, it's like, hang on a minute, what is success? Like, it's just whatever you want to do and you do it, then you're successful. So that's what I think too. Like, I think, you know, I wanted to do jiu-jitsu and now I do it, so I'm successful in that, you know. Whatever goal I have, if I'm doing it, then I'm successful because I'm working towards it, you know.
What's your biggest accomplishment?
Biggest accomplishment is, I guess it's working, like what I told you just now, like, from when I was on welfare until now, I haven't worked for anyone else. I never thought that would happen. Like, I knew the deal I was making with myself at the time, but if you had told me back then, 12 years ago, hey, in 12 years time, you'd be look back at your life and you haven't worked for anyone in the last 12 years. I was like, fuck, really? Like, really? Holy shit, man, fuck. Like, this happened. So I think that's the biggest accomplishment is, fuck, I've woken up on my own accord for the last 12 years. That is, for me, that's the biggest accomplishment. It's crazy to say that, but, you know, I could talk about our individual events, like when I did 15 bungee jumps in 6 days in Japan. Like, this is cool, but, like, 12 years of waking up every day without an alarm clock, like, that for me is the biggest accomplishment. Yeah.
If the world was ended in 30 days,
Mm-hmm.
and you could have only 3 things on your bucket list, what will those 3 things be and why?
Fly my parents out here to Bali, because what more do you, like, I don't have my immediate family, my parents, my brother, you know, I would fly them out for sure. If I had only 30 days, right? Definitely, 100%, and we'd go to all the best places in Bali and just enjoy our life, you know? So that's number 1. Number 2, I'd probably, what was the question? 3 things I would do if the world was ending in 30 days. I would release all the content I have. I don't know if that's actually a serious thing or just a joke. I'm not sure. I don't know. Just came to my mind. And I would just, what else would I do? Probably like want to chat to Oprah Winfrey somehow.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I just really find her line of work like really inspiring. Yeah, I feel like she's like I feel like she's come from my family tree. It's a weird concept, but yeah, I see myself in her a lot. I used to see myself in Will Smith a lot, but more so Oprah. Yeah, I have to think about that. That's it. But yeah, my family is like the most important thing, right? So I'd fly them over. That's like the most important to me. Everything else, like after that, it's like, yeah, I've released the content I have, but you know, one of my mentors, he said, like, the only people that really care about you are your immediate family and like maybe 1 or 2 friends. And I always thought to myself, wow, like that's deep, but it's true, you know? And I was like, fuck, yeah, so if I had 30 days to live, I just want to spend it with my family and some cool friends in Bali, you know? Probably go somewhere, go to the mountains and sit around the fire and, you know, share some good times. Yeah, spend it in nature.
Yeah. Is there a quote or like a saying that you live by?
Yeah, of course there is. You know me. There's actually a couple. You can have anything in life you want if you're just helping enough other people get what they want. That's from Zig Ziglar. And there's another one which is whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And that's from Henry Ford. Yeah. So those are the 2 quotes that I pretty much live by. Yeah. Oh, and also the third one is Maya Angelou. People remember what you said. People won't remember what you said, what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. Something like that. And so that is those are the quotes that I live by. That, yeah, I love quotes. I'm a geek for quotes. Yeah.
Amazing. And lastly, do you have any advice for someone who is feeling like they need that confidence boost to either start the business or go traveling? Maybe they want to do comedy. What advice would you give to them?
First of all, every time you ask me a question, it's always interesting because my mind goes to other people's advice that they've told me. So I like to teach through story because I think that's more powerful. But anyway, so our mentor, he told me, you need to look for people that have power. And so that looks like looking for whoever's doing well in whatever you want to do. That's the first prerequisite, right, to anything. It's like you want to learn from someone who's great at what they do, not just good at what they do. ultimately is what you want to do. So whoever you vibe with, who's doing well, like I'd say to people, just find those people and add value to them. Like this is another thing actually that I want to touch on is how to add value to someone who's doing well in their life. That's a skill. Like it's not something that's taught to people. But for example, I have people like come into my DMs, and every time they're just like asking for stuff, like constantly. Like that's all they do is just ask for things, and it's like that's not how to build a relationship with someone. Like add value, like pay attention to what that person's doing, like add some constructive feedback that helps them, or support them or whatever, right? Add some value to them, and then you can get quite far with that. Like people that do that to me, and I give them the time of day because they're showing that they're paying attention to what I'm doing, and they're actively they're actually listening and supporting, and they're getting value from what I'm doing, and they're just communicating that to me. And not many people do that. So I'd say that's the best way to connect with the people that you want to connect with, who are doing the things you want to do, and then the doors will start opening for you. So yeah, that's the key. So for example, let's say someone wants to get into comedy, and they see me and they heard, oh yeah, I do comedy. I'm like, oh okay, cool. And so, but if they treat me like crap, I'm not going to introduce them to Chris, and then all of a sudden they don't have that opportunity anymore. Stuff like that, So I think it's a lot about how people approach the situation as well.
And how do you grow your network?
I was going to ask you that, Cherie. That's a good question for you, actually. How do you grow your network? Well, first of all, you got to get around. Like, think about the hobbies that you want to do, right? So, most adults don't have hobbies, and that's a big social thing that you can grow your network with. Like in jiu-jitsu, for example, just one example. Like, so many people from different walks of life. Like today, I was just rolling with a guy. He's a pilot for Cathay Pacific, and I'm like doing jiu-jitsu with the dude. Like, and he lives in Hong Kong. Like, that's a whole nother world, Like, that's one network that I've got access to just from doing one hobby. And I can go to dance class and meet someone who's maybe like dance for Beyonce. Like, and I've got access to another network. Like, it's just people know people, So I think it's putting yourself out there and going to places where the people are really, and knowing what you want as well. Like, what do you want to achieve in your life? Like, what's the goals for you? Like, why are you in this place in the first place? Like, why are you here? Are you just here to have fun, or are you here to like network and see what people are about, or what's the end goal, and then work back from that? So if I wanted to be in LA in Hollywood, like, I know like what I'd have to do, I have to talk to people who have been in Hollywood, connect and all that stuff. And yeah, so I have to have a goal, and then from there I can work back to, all right, who do I need to connect with to get me to that goal? Yeah.